Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to episode 2 of Sci-Fi Annotated. And this is actually a really exciting episode because not only, am I really excited to talk about some of the stuff going on in the sci-fi realm, but also the new Dune trailer came out and it's been teased forever. It's finally out. And I gotta say, so the topics in today's episode, I'm not gonna do a super long intro. I just want to get into it. So the topics in today's episode: first, we got to talk about this Dune trailer. Number two, Daisy really did a Star Wars very heavy interview. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And then number three, if you guys don't mind, we're going to talk about The Boys. And then number four, we may, depending on the time, we may or may not talk Lovecraft Country. I always want to say Lovecraft Horror for some reason, but we may or may not talk about that series. I'm really just kind of like ad hocing it in terms of that fourth one. It really does depend on the time. But getting into the Dune trailer. So how we're going to do this is basically I'm going to give my general thoughts about the trailer, and then we're going to go into some of the more details about the trailer. I guess like a mini breakdown, if you will. I'm not going to do a thing where it's like, we play the trailer and we stop it, just because historically speaking, I've always lost a lot of those copyright battles, and you put a lot of energy into writing your responses just for the studio to be like, nah. So getting right into it, one of the first things that really stick out to me is the focus on the Atreides family, which I think is important. One of the things that Star Wars really took from Dune, from what I can tell, is this focus on this one family in particular, especially the desert setting, but like this family. And in the Atreides case with Dune, it's a royal family. The head of the house, played by Oscar Isaac, is Leto, Duke Leto, to be exact. And honestly, I really do feel like they couldn't have chosen a better actor for the role. I mean, he kills everything he does in a good way. But the villain of the story is a separate house. So all these different houses have their own territories across the galaxy. The Atreides family, one of the planets that they rule, happens to be Arrakis, which also happens to have the spice, which everybody wants because it gives you longevity, enhanced mental capabilities. Also, it could be used for interstellar travel. And it's just basically the most valuable substance in the universe. I think, if I remember correctly, it's an allegory in the Dune story for oil, more or less. But the rival family, that is kind of the antagonist here, played by Stellan Skarsgård, is Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. And basically, he's leading his own forces, which are shown in the trailer, to want to take out the Atreides family. And they kind of tease that, I think, in the movie, where they talk about how one by one members of his family, Paul Atreides' family, is being attacked. Now, getting into the spice again, like I said, it gives you longevity, enhanced mental capabilities and abilities in general, and also it's used for space travel. So it's pretty great. And then getting into Paul, they tease this, but they don't really say it, which I find interesting. And actually, I like, for those who are new to the whole Dune franchise. But Paul is special. Not only does he have the whole, like I said, Star Wars took some inspiration from Dune in a lot of ways. And just like how Luke Skywalker was this person that was relatively a nobody, but destined for this great future, Paul is the same way. And if you followed the Dune stuff and read a little ahead of time, like myself, for example, you would know that his descendants as well have some crazy stories of their own, following in his footsteps later on once he, passes. But during this time, he's really discovering who he is, and his future is going to be really interesting because he's one of the few individuals blessed with the ability to basically, like, with his mental capabilities, they're enhanced to the point where they don't outright say it's precognition, but basically it's more like pattern recognition to such a high degree that you can basically predict the future, which is really cool. So they kind of go into that in the trailer where they're like, have you dreamed of things that then happen? And obviously they make it sound straight up like precognition, but really what it is just he is constantly analyzing everything subconsciously. From that, he is piecing together the most likely situations that will happen in the future. And because it's pretty accurate, it then happens. So I guess in a way it is basically precognition. They just never officially call it that in the Dune franchise. Someone just staring at me as I walk by. Hi, person. Now, another thing I found really cool was just in general when they do show I want to say flashbacks, but when they show Paul on his original homeworld of Caladan, it looks entirely different. I really like the attention to detail with the set. I think when he was waking up in his bed, if you look at the headboard, it looks really great. There's a lot of kind of grooves in it. There's like, I think, fish on the headboard. Originally, I thought it was like a sandworm, which kind of threw me off. It's like, why would he have a sandworm on his headboard? But so another thing I really liked about this trailer was they give some time to highlight the Bene Gesserit. And basically, they're this all-woman group of these powerful, all mental-based, by the way, like these superhuman characters with these mental abilities. And they kind of, in their own way, they're not like a cult, but they kind of have their own like dark secret plans for the universe. So just like these two families are fighting this war, you have the Bene Gesserit in the background that are secretly kind of trying to like rule the galaxy, but from the shadows. And they have this like long-term plan. It's pretty cool. But the thing I really like is that basically in the book, oh wow, the camera moves, sorry. In the book, Lady Jessica, Paul's mother, was supposed to have a girl. And the reason why was because the Bene Gesserit wanted to use that girl to be kind of their leader in the future to help them rule the galaxy, all that stuff. However, instead, she gave Duke Leto, played by Oscar Isaac, a son, which obviously foils those plans. So that causes some drama there. But the really cool thing I think about them introducing and putting some real highlighting to the Bene Gesserit is the fact that they already announced they're going to do a Dune spinoff on HBO Max called Dune: The Sisterhood, focusing on the Bene Gesserit. So it's going to be really cool to see how they do that. And the creative team behind the Dune movie is also the same creative team behind at least the first few episodes, and I think the pilot more or less of the script. I think literally it's like 1-to-1. So the same director of the Dune movie is directing the HBO pilot. The same writer is writing the pilot. So it's going to be very similar. And Warner basically wants this to be their new mega franchise, which I think makes a lot of sense. Another really cool thing I thought to highlight here as we talk about this trailer is the shield tech. So basically what happens is they have this like shield technology for training purposes. And, when you hit people, things that aren't critical, I would say, it goes blue, as they show in the trailer. But if you give like a critical or what would be a mortal injury to someone, it glows red to indicate as such. So I think that's really cool. I'm looking forward to those scenes, honestly, and just kind of what they do with them. Now, getting into another kind of piece that they show very briefly, but it's been a lot of marketing materials, the still suits. I'm interested in seeing if they explain the still suits because, they're not super fancy necessarily, but I think they're so cool if they want to go into like the tech behind it. Another thing that's really interesting is Dave Bautista, because he basically looks like a pale Drax in this trailer, but basically he's kind of like, just like Jason Momoa is like the head warrior, if you will, for the Atreides family and their military force, their warriors. Dave Bautista is for the villain, the rival family and his warriors. So it's really interesting to see kind of how this will go. His nickname is the Beast, for example, while Jason Momoa's character is Duncan Idaho, which I think is like a really cool name. And I think it's really fitting for the character too, to have such like a question mark name, but then his personality is as such that literally like he was saying, let's go, I think, fight like demons, he said, which was kind of cool. But yeah, I think overall the trailer is really nice. Zendaya's in the movie as well. And the trailer ended off with the sandworms, which you can never go wrong with, I don't think. The sandworms are cool. Like, it's one of the most like not iconic parts of Dune and Arrakis, but when people really want to get into the lore of Dune, you start with the sandworms because the sandworms connect to the spice. They connect to the future of Paul's family, if you know what I mean. They connect to basically why Arrakis went from a very green, luscious planet to a desert planet. There's just so much there that all goes from the sandworms that I think, you can't do Dune without. So I'm happy to see that they are doing that. And I'm really interested in seeing how much of the sandworms we get, because hopefully it's not a case where we get like what we saw in the trailer plus like another one scene of, sandworms. Hopefully we can get more than one scene of the sandworms, and the sandworms in some way, shape, or form, they don't feel like a forced and set piece as they'll feel ideally, and I think they'll do this, but they'll feel more like a natural part of the environment, just because they are everywhere and they do make the spice, and everybody wants the spice. So you would think if everyone's wanting the spice, you're going to meet the thing that creates the spice and probably doesn't want you messing with the spice. But yeah, so that's really it for my thoughts on the Dune trailer. Hopefully it wasn't too disjointed. I had to like stop and start my recording a few times just because people kept passing through and like trying to talk to me as I'm recording, which is a very unusual thing. um, but I guess everybody loves Dune, so everyone heard me talking about it. They want to talk about it too. But yeah, so thanks for checking out this episode. It was kind of unorthodox, just because a lot of people kept disrupting me while I was recording today. The past few times I've been left alone, but today it seems like maybe because I'm doing it later, people are like, "What is this guy doing?" In this library, all weird. But yeah, so just leave your comments down below. What do you guys think? What would you like to see us talk about on Sci-Fi Annotated? I know I mentioned in the intro part of this episode, I really want to talk about The Boys, and I'm really sad I'm not going to be able to get into it. But yeah, I mean, I'll talk about Lovecraft Country. I said The Boys. Well, I'm tired. I'll get to Lovecraft Country, I think, next episode, just because I want to give it another episode to properly digest what's going on and formulate my thoughts. Because if it's following the book the way I think it is, next episode is going to have a lot to talk about. So I'm really interested in seeing what they go with there, how much of it they one-to-one adapt, and what they do change-wise here and there. Because so far, I think I've liked the changes they've made. I can't really think of anything different from the book that I would say is a drastic negative. I think overall it's a very good adaptation in terms of faithfully following the core elements of the story, yet making some smart changes along the way. But leave your comments down below. What are some other sci-fi fantasy related things you'd like to see us talk about on this podcast? With all that said and done, we'll catch you guys later.